Table Talk is not your typical D&D TTRPG podcast. We are not here to run you through our whole campaign.
We're here to talk about everything else in the space of Table Talk roleplay.
I'm your host, Alejandra Wilhelm.
And I'm also your host, Mariah Gresham.
And we're your tabletop roleplay girlies. Alrighty, and we are live back at it with another episode of Table Talk. Thank you so much for coming back to join us for a really awesome guest episode where I'm really excited. Please give us a little introduction about yourself and what you do and where people can find you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Trevor William Fayle. I am the Critical Fayle DM, and I and a cadre of goons produce all sorts of TTRPG content. We're most well known for our Curse of Strahd podcast, the Strahdcast, but we also do all sorts of stuff. We do streams on Twitch and all kinds of other stuff. So if you like gut-wrenching narrative and scares and spooks and laughs and joy, come check us out. We have a lot of fun. You can find us at Critical Fayle DM. That's Fayle DM, pretty much everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, anywhere. And you can find our podcast anywhere podcasts are sold.
Which
Nice.
I cannot express enough the joy that I get from watching you act out as Strahd.
It's so
We've
good.
mentioned it before, but I think me and Mariah used to both be in a Curse of Strahd campaign, and we had to.
Well, we
leave
were in
for-
a Ravenloft campaign. It was not
Ravenloft,
Curse
yes.
of Strahd, but
Mhm.
Strahd was like the BBG.
present.
So
there.
yeah, your Curse of Strahd campaign has been our like little Strahd reclamation moment
Oh,
of just
God.
like a
It's
pure
the way that we
enjoyment
get the good.
Yeah.
of the scary, scary man.
Oh, he's a bad
Yeah.
man. He's a bad man.
He's a bad man, but
He's a bad
you
man,
play him
Savannah.
so well.
Thank you.
And I've mentioned this before with you privately, but for the purposes of the air, you do something that I really admire in the sense of you use the space and you can tell that you are very comfortable with your players because you even go that kind of extra step to like when you're Curse of Strahd, like you'll casually like place your arm on their shoulder and like the way that sends like things to my
Ooh.
brain as a player, I'm like, I would shit myself in my
Absolutely. I have plans to do that in our VTM campaign with some of like the elder
Mhm.
vampire kindred from watching that. If I'm like, yes,
Oh, that's awesome.
sure.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to do something to sort of. Well, I mean, he is the title character of the module,
Mhm.
and it was the first time they had run into him a couple of times earlier in the campaign. But that first fight that you have with Strahd is kind of just him flexing and putting him in their
it's
place.
not
It's
a
not
fight.
really a
Tossing you
fight.
around. Yeah.
Exactly, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
consensually
he's
or no.
playing with his food, so to speak. So that was the first time they came up with up against him. And like the whole through line of Curse of Strahd, or like what I like to kind of try and build is that you're really like eroding away his power base and bringing hope and prosperity back to the people. And as they get better and happier, he gets weaker, right? Because his power in the place is kind of hinges upon him being able to subjugate everyone there. And so it was the first time he came up against the party where he was like, he recognized them as a threat. And that maybe not to him, but certainly to his way of life in Barovia. And so he was pretty angry on that particular occasion. So I thought it would be what a cool way to illustrate that. But to get up and like loom physically over them in the way that I try to imagine Strahd does to so many of his playthings.
Yeah.
So
It's such a
that
cool,
was a fun moment.
It's such a cool way to, I guess, like break that rule or the silent rule of like the DM stays behind the screen and just facilitates. And then when it's that like 4D moment of like, nope, now we're in it. And Strahd is standing behind me. Not like scared.
Well, what else could happen? Yeah.
Exactly.
Like for immersion's sake, it does something else when it's like, you're like, oh, the voice is coming from behind me that I hear with my human ears. And it wasn't just described as it's coming from behind my character.
Mhm.
Like there's a difference when your friend's just like head is on your shoulder. Like
it's a real strength of the medium. I think it's one of the real strengths of Dungeons and Dragons, provided you're playing in person, of course. But it's one of the reasons that I'm a stage actor for my for a living, such as it is. And something that I talk about a lot in that arena is the thing that offers that theater provides that other sort of entertainment media can't is being in a room with someone, right? And so I always advocate for shows or direction on the stage that really leans in and takes advantage of that medium. And my philosophy is same for Dungeons and Dragons. Like if you're in a room with your pals, what are the ways that you can take advantage of that to really heighten the experience for everybody?
Yeah, we're huge in-person game people because
Mm-hmm.
me and Mariah both, we have our online games and those are all well and good. But that's the difference between when me and Mariah will play for like a set 3 hours on an online game versus our in-person games that will run the entire day because we're all
you lose
so
time
in it.
Of course, yeah. It's tough. It's tough virtually. I feel like you have to do double the work for like half the impact, especially as a DM.
Yeah.
It's challenging, but in a pinch, it's certainly better
It'll
than
sustain
not
you.
playing
It's like an
D&D.
a slow IV drip to get you
Yeah.
to the next meal.
For sure.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, it's funny, like as we've been on more streams and stuff, because I've kind of found a midpoint with it. I think because I view the streams as a performance.
Definitely.
So I
yeah.
bring more of like how I would play in person than when I'm not, like, especially if like you don't have cameras on and you're playing online. And it's like, okay, the neurodivergent temptation to not open another tab is so strong. Its allure just beckons you away,
calling to you, and you're just you're just gonna
like,
open
I
up
know I got
Pinterest again for
emails
the
in
8th
there.
time, but
I know there's some things I need to delete. Like it's so hard. But when it's a stream performance, it's been easier to. It's still not quite the same, but it's easier to lock into a modified
Be a little more
version.
present.
For sure. I totally feel that. Yeah, we do a lot of streams on Twitch. We've done our most recent one is we did over the holidays. We did a very humble holiday where we actually played Humblewood. I don't know. It's a setting book.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, which uses 5e rules, but you're playing like pigeons and rabbits and deer and stuff like yeah. It was really fun. So we were all like, everybody was animals in New York. But yeah, the streaming certainly, like you said, Mariah, definitely, like it has that active live energy that can really carry you through a lot of stuff and is really exciting.
For sure, yeah. And this will be both mine and Mariah's first actual play that will be like streamed.
Congratulations, that's so exciting.
Yeah, so we're very excited. I'm thankful I'm not the GM because I don't have the strength nor the time to plan that. But I will surely show up.
I will happily show up and do my thing. But yeah, no, I don't know that I could GM online. I do not know that I have it. You know those memes where it's like I have that dog in me, but the dog is like a dog, like a skinny dog in a nervous vest. I feel like that's me toward like DMing online. Like I do not have the required dog in me to like do that and not like have a complex, because it's like it's anxiety inducing enough to be like, are people having fun? Am I doing it right? Is everyone engaged? Am I like spreading time equally? And then to be like, oh cool, now there's a layer of technology between us.
Sure.
Yeah.
What I have found helpful in doing it virtually is, again, like I was talking about, just more leaning into what is unique to that experience. So when I do when we stream online and I'm GMing, I did Death House the Halloween before last, which is meant to be sort of the introductory dungeon of Curse of Strahd, but I always just skip it because it's way too hard. I don't know what
That's
what they're
kind of
thinking.
the point.
Yeah.
It's just meant to make you cry.
It's the scared straight entry to like Curse of Strahd, where it's like, are you sure you want this one? And then if you're a masochist, and it's like, all right, Chief, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I DM'd through that one, and I found it really helpful to take full advantage of like Roll20 and digital maps in that arena, which is something that I do a little bit less of in person. So I don't know, kind of using that extra tool and really relying on it and leaning into it changes the experience and I don't know, suits it to just what the medium is more suited to, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think there's also like an interesting in between that we recently experienced. I'm going to plug somebody else here. Crit Eating Grin invited us to come play. And they did a really good blend because they had in-person players at the table and then us like
great.
tuning in from a screen. And like he had the streaming of the table as well as Roll20 going up. And he had like the actual map on roll 20 and the table, and then he had physical props that he would put down,
That's
and
great.
like that was reflected on roll 20, and
Oh,
where the scenes
wow.
went physically was also happening on roll 20. And I was like, this is so cool. Like
Yeah.
every time he brought some new physical thing out, like a building or a ship or
Yeah,
whatever,
there's a
we were
whole
like
ship.
as invested on both screens, being like, oh, I
That's
love that he's
amazing.
it's like
Like,
1 to
tilt me
1 scale.
down.
And I was like, the effort that
I
took,
know,
now that
that's a
you're on
lot
the
of work.
production side of things, I was like,
Yeah.
after this whole show, I was like, what the fuck? Like, how do you do this? And he's like, I just want to make it enjoyable for everyone.
I have a
So
lot of
where'd you get that
respect.
from?
I have a lot of respect for that. That is that I think that is the arena of my DMing that I feel weakest in is just the
Mhm.
like the technology of it all. I still
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
paper character sheets, like
Oh, same.
you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean. But that's what part of the great thing about this this venture, this D&D content creation journey is just sort of being forced into the situation where you have to learn new things,
Mhm.
True. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we're so lucky. We are such a talented group of people, and all like in different areas. Like Kay is a real whiz with computers. She's a programmer in real life. Yeah, Campbell and I are both trained actors, as is Ned, and Ned also, is a woodworker, and Tyler is a brewer, and so we have all of these
Well,
different
that's sick.
skills that. Yeah, I know. Once we all come together, we're like just like a real D&D party. We all, we have our
This is what I
proficiencies in
bring.
different places. Yeah,
You're
we're a
fancy
really
troop.
we're a really meta real life friend group.
Incredible.
We're min max.
Have y'all known each other for a really long time, or like when did y'all all start at playing?
Great question. Yeah, it was actually over the pandemic, where we really
As one
started
does.
playing in full, like so many people. I know that the pandemic was a huge time where a lot of people got into D&D, if not for the first time, like developed the habit, I guess you could call
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I DM'd my first campaign, which also was Curse of Strahd during the pandemic. And so then once we kind of started beginning to come out of it, I put forward, doing this Curse of Strahd again because I loved it so much the first time. And I had a lot of new ideas for like things I could change and expand upon. So I was so excited to do it with this new group of people. And we got Campbell on board, and which was really exciting because it's her first ever D&D campaign. And like, what an experience for her coming into it.
That's a fun one.
But yeah, we all met. A lot of us were stage actors. Kay did it for Kay and Ned did it for a time. Campbell and I still do so, and so that's generally how all of us met, was through acting gigs. Ned and I met for the first time doing scenes from doing like Shakespeare scenes in Longwood Gardens, which is this huge arboretum.
What Shakespeare play?
I was doing ones. He did a Macker's scene and oh my god, what was the one? What's the one with Kenneth Branagh? Taming of the Shrew. And then I was doing scenes from Romeo and Juliet and
Classic.
can't remember the other one, but yeah, that's how we all met. Yeah, and then we just started playing this campaign together, and the rest, as they say, is history. But now we're all. Yeah, now we've also playing the game has also bound us together in a really incredible way that might not have happened otherwise.
I love that. Yeah, you guys have a very good, like, palpable dynamic together at a table, especially like in all the videos that I see and like listening to a couple of your episodes. It's the dynamic between the people is so important to telling those really like engaging quality stories, and y'all definitely have that magic in there.
Yeah, we love each other, and it's because it's so critical to have that sort of safety and trust at a table if you want to do the kind of vulnerable work that I think makes D&D really, really worthwhile. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I feel so lucky to have this crew, to have this group. We're just a really powerful real life D&D party, and I count my lucky stars.
Yeah, it's how we feel a lot about our own table, because we had a very similar come up of like me and Mariah met just before the pandemic, and then our group had to like kind of disband because of like outside reasons. Then the pandemic was like in full swing of like you can't meet in person, and we were like, well, shit. But then through the course of the years, we've come to have like our core group. And it is that like we have a lot of safety and vulnerability there. And we've been playing Strixhaven. I started DMing like a full year ago. So we've just had like our anniversary with it.
Nice.
And when we've recorded all our sessions and we've talked about possibly publishing it because it is a really good story. But then we all kind of had that moment of like, I love the dynamic that we have and how vulnerable and how raw we get at that table. And I feel like that would change with the element of now it's being perceived by the public. And I don't want to like change that good energy that we have in there. So, which is why we're like planning on doing a whole different situation for an actual play because they're all in that same vein of like, hey, if we start it with the idea of this is going to be consumed by someone,
then that's
fully
great.
down.
Yeah.
Fully down.
And I think also like I'll speak for myself. I think it's true like for everyone on some level. Like I had a very hard time after we sort of broke away from that Ravenloft campaign that like the campaign got quite toxic. People's friendships with people got quite toxic. And so it was a mess. But legitimately, like I wanted to play when Ollie started Strixhaven, but it took me months to put together a character that I like could even come to the table and feel anything about because I was so disenchanted with the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so like for me especially, if I'm like, even we talked about like Ollie has her DM council that can like weigh in, and we talked about like letting them listen, and I'm like, I kind of don't want to. I'm like, they can listen to the recordings, but I'm like, the second I know someone is watching this, it changes it for me.
Big time.
And like because it was that safe place for all of us to kind of rediscover the love for this hobby, like I want to keep that. And then also like the recording, it's not a studio recording. It's one like
it's a
USB
single
mic.
condenser mic and a drink hanging from my fucking
Ollie's
lamp.
mom is washing dishes in the background. Like her dad is coming in and announcing he's going to grab a coat and then walking back out of the house with no words. Like we have like random ass bits. It's a little bit of a mess. Like they're funny to listen back on, but also like as a writer, I'm like I think our dream for it, especially my dream for it, would be to turn into an animated series.
Sure,
but I'm like, let me just get in there and clean everything up and like write it into my nice little script, and then we can like record it.
Take out the random 30-minute conversation about how hot this NPC is.
Yeah, that's a big part of the table culture is talking about how hot because everyone's hot in D&D. That's part of the fun.
90% of my prep just finding NPC art.
Truly, truly.
Too true.
That is hot enough for these girls at this point.
Not an ugly person in that campaign.
Too true.
No, it's California in that universe.
Truly, yeah.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear about how the Ravenloft campaign came down. It's so many people's experience with the game, unfortunately, and like for better or for worse, it's a game that relies on other people, and so anytime that's the case, you're bound to run into some tricks. Every once in a while,
100% saw it coming and should have left sooner, but we left when we did, and that's what matters.
But that's so we live and we learn, right? Like I feel like it's almost unavoidable. I think it's almost unavoidable. Honestly, and kind of just part of, it's part of the hobby. I think almost is
truly.
It takes some trials and tribulations to find your table, but once you do, boy,
it's like dating.
It's a special thing. Exactly.
Honestly,
very much so. Like that, you will
it really is.
Show up at some tables and you're like, this is definitely not my vibe. And there's others that you're like, kind of, but like maybe two of these people I could do without. But
or it's like, I'll come and roll dice and like stab things or whatever, but I'm not gonna we're not getting into it. Like it's a different. It's not less, but it's just it's not as deep or not as emotionally vulnerable as
there's different dynamics for people.
Yeah.
Like some people like the crunchy combat, like numbers vibe. I had a campaign that I joined for it was a weekly Monday campaign. And I was so excited because the DM pitched it to me and he was like, oh, it's in the Faywilds. And I was like, the Faywilds, you say? And I slid in there. And I'm very much I love developing lore for my character. I'm very into the role play and the story and getting into the nitty gritty of it. And then I joined the campaign and I realized that these are a bunch of goofballs and they just like to make haha jokes and destroy this poor DM's NPCs right in front of him. And everyone's having a great time, but then I'm like, the DM was doing so much because he loved that I was so into my lore and my character, but he's trying to feed me these like really like deep lore like story moments as like these haha moments are happening, and I'm like the disconnect between what my character was going into it versus what the party actually like enjoys playing. I was like, this feels like a mismatch a little bit.
Yeah.
And eventually I'm like,
dissonance.
Yeah, I'm not doing my character a service to what she was originally created for, because now I'm trying to fit into this haha funny moment and trying to like bob and weave these like hardcore story.
Yep.
moments.
Yeah, I hear that, because there's no wrong way to play the game, right? Like, just like you were saying.
Sure.
Yeah, so it really is about finding people who kind of vibe with your and that's a fun thing about the game, is finding out how to get the most out of it. You know what I mean? That's just part of the process too. And I have I have different campaigns that kind of scratch different itches. You know what I mean? Like I have one group of friends who I play with that really just love a dungeon crawl. Like, they're not so much about the role play. They just want to hex crawl. And so that's like a great outlet for that when I'm feeling, like particularly crunchy. And so, it's always best to have a spread of options before you, rather than, but there's no wrong way to play the game, and figuring out how it works best for you is a big part of entering into this crazy hobby.
For sure. And I think right now we're entering this really like nice sweet spot that I like. Again, we have a very like privileged table, because once we started talking to more people in the space, we realized that like, okay, normally people don't play as long as we do. Normally people don't play like an in-person game. And then now it's becoming a situation of like all of my players are taking up the DM mantle, like slowly but surely. So I'm like, I get to play more. So like we get to have this nice little like roundabout situation that doesn't typically happen, because you normally have like the one person that runs the game and then everybody else. So like, we're just out here being
and
privileged,
we're all
at our little
back, are planning to move back to the same city to Bex and I, who are currently out in Austin, are like planning this year to move back to Houston. So it's just like, sure would be a shame
if we got to play more. And now it's
get
worse.
the band back together. That's great.
Which will be nice, especially for like my vampire campaign, because we haven't been able to play that super regularly just because scheduling is hard. And like getting, time off and all that. But like when we're all in the same city again, then we can really like start knocking some sessions out.
Yeah, boy, I tell you, the hardest part of D&D isn't fighting monsters. It's just scheduling.
Yeah, oh my God. It's the Google Calendar invites.
That's the real final boss.
This is a funny day.
The last minute cancellations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not even last minute cancellations for us, but I was like Doctor Stranging my calendar for like half the day today, trying to figure out, because like Bex, like she has to put in time like a month ahead. So we will book out sessions like
several
about 3 to 4 months in advance.
Sure.
And like, so we have to coordinate the 4 of us for the Strixhaven people. And then Teddy and Chrissy, who play in our Alderaan campaign, we play on Sunday.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, I'm in here. I'm like, let me strap this thinking cap on so tight, because I was like, I had dates and then I got it kind of fixed for Strixhaven. And then I put it over in like the channel for the Alderaan, and those dates didn't work. And I'm like, no. So I'm just going back,
and everyone's like, well, that's my mom's birthday and this and this, and then we're trying to make it fit.
The best way to do it is just to throw a dart into the future and see where it lands, and try your darndest to stick to it is really the only way to do it.
I'll just we just hold each other at gunpoint half the time, and it's like, this is the date that we've picked. Effective. And nobody can cancel. I don't care who called you and said that they need you. Doesn't matter.
If you're not in the ER and I say I'm talking at myself, because that has happened.
It better be your mom, and even then, put your mom on the phone with me, and we'll get it sorted.
These are the only reasonable excuses.
Oh my goodness. You also mentioned, and we've talked about this before, but I would love to have that conversation with you. You mentioned about like inserting more like feminism into D&D. What does that mean for you?
Well, the reason that I wanted to run Curse of Strahd in the first place is because I was playing in a campaign, not even I was playing in Curse of Strahd, and spoilers out there for the Curse of Strahd module, we get to that point. My character was having a nice romance with Irina. We were having the time of our lives, really enjoying ourselves, and then we get to frickin' Kresk. I'm sure you know where this is going, and they get to the lake, and she gets eaten by the lake. Sergei comes out in the lake and she's like, oh, great. And then she goes and lives in a lake. And after that, I was
Yeah.
pretty molding. I'll be pretty
You were
honest
like,
with you.
my beloved?
Like,
Is in a
It was,
lake.
well, it was
Nothing to
that.
you.
It was that, but then it was also like I was furious because there's this whole, the whole thing is like Strahd is like chasing this one woman across time and space,
Yeah.
but she doesn't remember him at all. Like
No.
the book never makes mention that the character of Irina has any notion of her supposed past or any past interactions with Strahd, and I like that because then she, it's just this monster chasing down this
He's
poor
just
woman.
some guy.
It's not like Stockholm Syndrome situation.
Right?
Yeah.
I
that
just
lives in a
the
haunted-
premise is weird. I just reject the premise that like she's
Yeah.
this same person, right? I reject it outright. And so, but then to get to the lake and have the brother come out of the lake, and suddenly she's like, "Oh, now I remember. I would like to go live in a lake." I just thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I
It's
thought
like,
it was
why
so
was that the switch that flipped for you? Like, why was it, of all the things in Barovia, why was it that?
That she's like, yes, this brother I had in a past life who I have no recollection of.
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
very confusing. But anyway, so that is that like I was so frustrated with that choice that it spurred me on to just DM the whole thing so I could change it and make it better.
Fair. It'd be like that.
And so that, I mean, but I also think like, I don't know, Curse of Strahd, if you don't do it thoughtfully, I think there's a lot there's some stuff that has not aged super well in there. I mean, there's the whole Visani, obviously, but just in its attitudes towards, just having this, vampire incel king ruling over a whole valley, chasing this poor woman across.
There's some red flags.
There
It's
are.
a field of poppies with the poppies are red flags.
There are. And the thing is, I wanted to put those red flags on blast. I wanted to serve
Highlight.
those red flags honestly, in ways that are reflective of our own very real world, And I wanted to not shy away from those harsh realities, but instead explore them and not present them in a way that necessarily says, this is the way to behave, this is not the way to behave, but just to present the way that, like, this is why these characters have found themselves in these situations, and this is why they make the decisions that they do. Because I just always think it's more important than who has the right or wrong of anything, is just that we understand, and we can understand where people are coming from. Because if we can understand why people have landed where they have, then it's easier to invoke compassion and understanding, I think, in those moments. And so, the goal was not to use those sort of icky tropes to make people feel icky, or just sort of say, like, this is bad behavior and this is a bad man and these people are bad, but instead just to present these things kind of honestly and truly the way that we see them in our real world, and just grapple with them, and just like part of the horror of Curse of Strahd is that this man won't leave this woman alone. I kind of want to explore that. You know what I mean?
It's so much
diving
more
deeper into his
interesting,
reasonings
too.
and why is it this particular woman, why the obsession, why the non-stop like chase over just him being like, this is mine and it will be mine.
It's like, what motivates that? And it goes back to the thing of like, with a lot of horror, like survival horror and stuff, of like, oftentimes the most horrifying elements are the human elements, or the things that people, just normal people, do are often the most horrific when you really get down to it. And so like the parts of Strahd that are the most concerning is the vestiges that remain of his humanity, right? It's less about the fact that he's a vampire and like drinks people's blood to stay alive. Like that's wild, but it's
the emotions
not,
he feels.
Yeah, it's not the most interesting thing. And like, I love stories and I like playing with stories and writing stories where like most of the characters aren't good people, because I think that's just a more interesting place to start. And then it's like, okay, well, why are they that way? And why isn't morality what it is? And then you build from there, and they either get worse or they get better. But it starts at a fairly neutral ground. Like, no one has the moral high ground, really. It's like we're all just kind of trying to do what we think is right and hope that that fits into like the greater narrative of what's right.
Yeah.
Because that's more what life is, right? It's that very like history is told by the victors kind of thing, where it's like, is what you think correct, or like is that just what you know?
Yeah. And everyone
Right.
can be a villain in somebody else's story, given the right
Mhm.
context, especially D&D parties.
That's certainly true. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
certainly true. Yeah.
I'm like, that one goblin child you let live whenever you massacred this entire
Shouldn't have
little
done
town,
that.
they're going to come back and bite you. And they
If
have
you're
every
gonna,
right
yeah,
to.
yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta. If you're gonna massacre the whole town, you gotta commit to the bit. I saw a TikTok earlier. It was like it was so innovative. It was like the audio was the like, look at the blood you spilled on the steps of Notre Dame, and like that is been in my head.
The innocent NPC that did not have to die if you just talked to them.
It's like, I am innocent. She ran. I pursued. And I'm like, if that ain't most parties.
Yeah, certainly true. Yeah, I really wanted to present a rough and scary world where it is challenging to survive almost exclusively because of the depravity of this one person who has just run amok, you know? And I just wanted to present that honestly and truly and in a recognizable way, because if we can recognize it and if we've experienced it in our life, like you said, that's the real horror. So, yeah.
I think also it gives room for more creative solutions, I guess, because once you start delving deeper into the reasonings behind these BBEGs and like, why are they the way they are? Why are they doing the things that they're doing? Then that gives room for the characters to do more than just, I'm just going to go try and kill that guy at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, are there ways that you could eventually like redeem them? Are there ways that you could eventually convince them to not do a thing? And like, I know whenever we did our Ravenloft campaign, we're going up against like all of these dreadlords and we're going to each of their domains, and there's certain elements and points where we're like figuring out stuff about their reasonings. And there's some that we were like, I think we can turn them. Like if
Yeah,
we,
like, I
it's
can
a
maybe
it's a
fix them.
small chance, but if we play our cards right, I think we can get them on our side. And I find that just more interesting of like a solution rather
Definitely.
than just like going gun ho. And
Right, because you still want to like you want your viewers or players or whoever else, you want them to care about everybody. You know, you want them to care about the villain, you want them to care about the heroes, you want them to care about everybody, because that's just what makes it more narratively interesting. If they feel like they have some skin in the game, it's going to spur them on to more interesting choices, like you're saying, and and just better narrative. And so the easiest way to get someone to care about a character is to just show their humanity, you know, show the under the hood, because that's what folks connect to. If you can find those, you know, that's why we have characters like Tony Soprano, who is reprehensible. But you see the threads of humanity, and you put together the story of what made him the monster he is, and suddenly you've got someone who you want to learn more about, you know. And I think that can go like, yeah. So my goal with Strahd is to bear all of it, the monstrous parts and the parts that are still human,
and the flawed, like more human parts.
Even if those human parts are still just a bad human.
Pretty reprehensible. But yeah,
Yeah, it ain't great.
Yeah, let me be explicitly clear. Like, Strahd
Really?
is the worst. He is a bad man. I just
Yeah.
want to make that explicitly clear.
This is not an I can fix him situation.
No, he's a monster. He's a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a sad backstory, and he's a very bad man that cannot be fixed and doesn't want to be fixed.
No.
Maybe I don't. I think he's past the point at this.
Yeah,
that's a lot of nat 20s in a row you're gonna have to roll.
Yeah.
At that point.
Because also, just like, what's he gonna do? Walk back out into Barovia and be like, "Hey, everybody,
JK,
so sorry about the centuries of work.
I have been doing some real self-reflection."
Yeah, it's like, what is that? Like, you're that far in, and I'm like, yeah, it's like, I
You've
guess
been
this is what we're
reading
doing.
Atomic Habits. Just a bunch of self-help books.
Yeah.
It's a library. God. I did want to ask, and this is something that like I'm starting to encounter more as a DM and like a new baby DM, and whether you can help me as a fellow DM or just as an actor.
Yeah.
I am a recovering people pleaser. And so many times that I've encountered, like when we're starting to get into BBEG territory, or like we just had like our big first arc and now we're kind of crawling back up again, but I'm playing a lot of less than great characters in this person's family. They're very like Malfoy coded, very toxic family situations. Sometimes I'm noticing that I'm having issues playing characters that are meant to be mean or like toxic towards my players, because like there's
Sure.
the brain split of like, these are my friends and I'm causing discomfort, versus like I need to tell this story and do these characters justice. Do you encounter that when you DM, or like how do you deal with it if you do?
That's a great question, and that is absolutely something that I suffer from as well. I always want them to win. You know what I mean? That's a great question. May I ask, what is it that you find? What is it that kind of stops you up, or like what is it that makes it challenging for you?
I think there's moments like I'll cite one from like Mariah's character's arc. There's moments where I know I'm like describing a scene that's particularly like horrific. It is particularly like emotionally traumatizing for her character and like stirring some real emotions. Like Mariah cried several times and I cried also. But there's moments of like me describing those scenes and seeing that moment of discomfort in her or other like players, because it's like it's a rough scene, and knowing that I need to keep going because it's that is the atmosphere, that is the energy of like the room we're in in the studio today. And sometimes I like catch myself wanting to like reel it back, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great question, and yeah, it's something that the instinct to be mindful of that is absolutely great. Yeah, you want to be checking in with players constantly just to make sure, that lines aren't being crossed and everyone is still in a comfortable place. Yeah, I would say first things first, which I mean, it already seems like y'all have like that trusting environment, like we were talking at the beginning of the game. Or, sorry, at the beginning of our interview here, like that understanding that this is a safe place, and to your point, like, there is implicit trust at our table, which is why I felt comfortable getting up and, doing that Strahd scene where I got up and walked around, And so if that implicit trust is there, I think you're safe. You're safe stepping into that territory. And what I have found from a lot of my players, and it's something that you want to keep in communication about, but like they love it. They love being emotionally distraught.
I register it. Like every time I ask after the fact, they're like, they literally at the end of that arc, like I asked Mariah and I asked everybody else, I was like, huh, everyone cool? Everyone okay? No. And they're like, this is period the best D&D game I've ever played. Yeah. And I was like, cool.
People want to feel that, right? They want to be stirred to those emotional heights. And I think like as long as it is approached with that notion of safety in mind, and with the understanding that, like if anybody needs, you can just like call it. We have a safe word at our table for circumstances like that. We've luckily never had to invoke, but like it's just good knowing that it's there. But yeah, I've been told to go further sometimes. So like, I know it feels yucky, and that's probably just by virtue. If you're anything like me, it's just by virtue of just being a
good person.
Nicer person who swings towards the nice end of the spectrum more than anything else. But yeah, if there's that trust there, I would say go for it, and check in with your players and have open lines of communication. It's such an important part of D&D is just the checking in. But if you're doing that and you have if you have like an air of safety at your table, I think you're good to go whole hog. And just trust that if something, a big part of that is, never assuming what someone else can handle. Like just trust that if something ever becomes too much for someone, they'll let you know, just lean in and don't assume what other people can handle, and trust that they will make their needs known to you if need be.
For sure. I think, there's describing uncomfortable scenes and like seeing the discomfort, and I'm like, should I reel this back? But then like I know this is what they came here for.
Yeah, they want.
And then like right now what I'm facing is like, for example, we just had like our ball session where it's pre like the big ball, and they're kind of in that like little soiree, like mingling, socializing and whatever, and like kind of scoping out everybody. And by the end of it, like there was a moment where like, the main noble girl, she's kind of scoping out all of the other like noble children. And I say children, they're all like 20 something, but all of like the eligible, like marriageable options
candidates,
and stuff for the candidates.
Uh-huh. Sure. Right.
Season.
And
The debutante.
realizing that I played all of them like very friendly or like very, like I
They were
don't
all
think there was
lovely
many.
people.
They were all lovely
They were
people,
great.
and
They were great
that's
to
just
be
part of
around.
me. Like I was genuinely just enjoying the vibes, and then I'm like, I forgot to play assholes up in here.
You still
I
have
hear
a few.
I really-
I'm gonna have to bring in some assholes next session.
Yeah.
I really get that. I really, really do understand. Like, I have had that same thought to myself many times. Like, do I need to like ramp that? Am I being too nice? Part of why I love Curse of Strahd is because I get the chance to play Count Strahd von
It
Zarovich,
gives you the reason. Yeah.
which is just, it's just a meal that I just really love to sink my teeth into. I've always loved vampires. I've always loved vampire media has been a huge
so
part of my
good.
sort of like creative understanding. The Stephen Sommers like 2005 Van Helsing movie is maybe my favorite movie of all time.
Incredible.
Yeah, and so then to have a chance to play a villain who is like so over the top and flamboyant and fun, but also really scary and dangerous and like can kind of turn on a dime like that, is just is really exciting. It's a real meal for me as a performer and an actor, and a chance to get a little mean, be a little mean every now and again.
I love that. You know what? I almost equate it to like how I can't be mean to video game characters in places in games that I have choices.
It's the
It's
same
that.
thing.
I know. Every time I load up Baldur's Gate, I'm like, all right, I'm doing the villain run this time.
Yeah.
But I can't do it.
Yeah, you can't. It's hard. It's so hard.
It's so
Or even
difficult.
you're like, I'll do heinous things, but in conversation I will still be polite. Because I'm Southern.
but I don't want to make
I'd
anybody
be rude.
Yeah, I'll slaughter the whole town, but I don't want to make anybody feel bad.
Yeah, but I can't be rude to the shopkeep. I'm not a monster.
I'm not an animal.
As I'm wiping goblin blood off my
Ain't that just the way?
Oh my god, Ollie, I kind of have a question about that topic.
Mhm.
Was it harder for you because like with Anya's arc finale, it was more like there were some manipulation, a certain amount of like psychological horror, and I think some of that we're still playing around with in like our out of session roleplay. But for her big like finale, it was more body horror than in like gore and things like that than anything. But for like the Bloodstone Ball, it is very much like manipulation and psychological tension and drama and leaning into unhealthy tendencies that like we have both experienced in our life with people and like have trauma from, but then it's like, oh cool, now we're gonna like you're going to have to do that. And so it's like which has been harder.
We haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty of
That's true. I'm scared for I have
the
no idea what
social aspects.
Yeah.
And like I'm someone that has done a lot of healing in my life, and I am scared to tap into that. A little bit.
It'd be a shame if you just use that as an outlet.
Right? Just like all this pent up shit. Like I've been the better person throughout the course of my entire life. What if I just wasn't?
What if indeed? Indeed?
Which it's like it's so wild because I'm trying to think. Like obviously Anya's my character. I knew roughly where her arc was gonna end. I knew the gist of like what the type of trauma we were gonna see was gonna be. And with this arc, I'm like, I know a few things, and I'm like, how is this all going to go to hell in a handbasket? Because I know it's going to.
It always does.
But I'm like, how?
It's really fun because Bex knows the things that that like more than obviously everybody else at the table, and she has also still not caught on. And that makes me really excited.
That's bad to think about. That's a thing that you just said is bad to think about.
Yeah, there's already things that I'm like laying the groundwork for, and she is like, she said something last session that I was like, she is completely on the wrong train. she missed the fucking exit.
Right.
And I was like, this is gonna be good.
Good luck, everybody.
I hate that so much. I hate that more than Anya's mutilated, stitched together parent corpse body thing. I hate
it's gonna be good.
That was rough,
it's gonna be good. It does. It does have me excited.
Isn't that an amazing game we play? An amazing hobby we have where we just
Wild
are
here.
just incentivized to be so cruel to our friends.
It's just
Literally
a good motivation to flirt with my friends and traumatize my friends.
We have a sticker in
Yeah,
our
I
Etsy store that says D&D, the game where you cast spells and kiss your friends.
Yes, I love.
yeah.
Oh my god. Do you have any like crazy stories from your home games?
From home games?
Or what is like the biggest curveball you've ever been thrown as a DM and you're like, shit.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, let me think. Curveballs. Oh, yeah. One of my one of my favorite sort of like panic scramble moments as a DM is something we we all know very well. I'm sure it's when your players get to a location that you think is just going to be a stopover where they do a long rest, but then inevitably they
No stone unturned.
they get so hyper fixated on something, right? And
They're like, I love this tiny little town.
yeah, I know,
And-
right? And so, yeah, this was one of those places. I thought they were just going to rest here, rest and to get a long rest and then on their way out. But they started walking around and they were, listening for rumors. And, so I was just like off the top of my head, I was just pulling stuff out of the ether. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, there's an island in the river near town. And strange enough, an opera singer has gone missing lately, da 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 da. But they just
That's where you fucked up.
they got hyper
That's where you fucked
fixated
up.
on it. And so then the whole thing turned into this where they, sailed across this island. And the whole thing turned into there was this troll that had eaten an opera singer. And so now he could sing opera. And they instantly fell in love with him, of course. And they threw him a whole concert. I don't know. It ended up taking
That's
like
incredible.
2 whole sessions. You know what I mean? To get
I
through
like
this
the
troll.
idea of a
Patrons of the
troll
arts.
eating an opera singer like a dog eating the squeaky part of a chew toy. It was like,
Right. And
just-
now he can sing opera. Exactly. He had learned that. Bartroli was his name.
Wait, Partroli?
Yeah, Bartroli. Like Bartoli, the famous opera singer. And
I love that. Oh my god.
but yeah, I don't know. It's just that's the great thing about D&D is some of your best moments can come out. You no matter how much planning you do, always your best moments will just come from just nowhere,
Yep.
That's part of the magic of the game.
Yeah, Jesus. They be throwing me some crazy ass curveballs because like especially because we play Strixhaven and it's like it's Strixhaven by the skin of its teeth because it's basically just like I took the university bit and we're just running into the fields now. But there's times whenever like the sessions are a little more structured in the sense of like for my prep, I'm like, okay, if we're doing the more classroom style days, it's like, okay, you go to these classrooms. So think about like where you're going to go and what club you're going to attend. And that way I can like kind of plan the day a little bit.
Mhm.
And there will be random situations in between. And then
Yeah.
there's just moments where like, I remember with Bex's character, she's supposed to have a very unhealthy relationship with like all of her siblings. And so I had this older brother that I was fully planning on being like, just like a fuck boy type deal and like bullies her a little bit. And like we had little tidbits of that, but then she like randomly decided she's like, I'm gonna go see Narian. And I was like, you're gonna do it
For
now?
what?
Okay. Yeah, for what? I don't fucking know. We're going off script, but bet. And so she goes to see him. And this character of mine rolls like a goofus every single time. And so every time I'm trying to make him just be deceptive or
swap.
whatever, save face, anything, natties, nat ones every time.
Ain't that the way?
And they
This
just cut
character
through-
is my character's ex.
yeah, it's
Classic.
messy.
Oh, the drama. Scandal.
The drama and the tea and the scandal. But yeah, and that's the one that's getting engaged right now.
Oh
So
boy. I'm sure there are
And-
no complicated feelings about that. Anyway.
None.
It's fine.
none whatsoever.
Nothing's
Nothing's happened.
at
She
all.
definitely didn't fuck him in the hedge maze.
Oops.
No, it's all good.
Whoopsie
Well, who
daisy.
among us?
Oh my God.
But like she
He's
went
a
over
groupie.
there and like the way that the dice were rolling just ended in like a really heartwarming scene of them admitting how fucked up their family is and that they have to like keep these masks up. And she's like, I don't know how to do it. And so he's like, I can teach you. And like they both just agreed to forgive each other for the things they have
there
to
you
say
go.
to each other publicly.
Sweet.
And I was like, ugh, I love that happened, but it's also something I never like planned or expected. And I was like, I thought we were gonna have to like go real far before this little relationship developed.
Mhm.
But it's such a pleasant surprise whenever things like that kind of just pop up.
Yeah. And it's my greatest pleasure as a DM, those moments where you sit back and the players spin themselves up into a frenzy and they're just all role playing and you just sit
It's
there
free
and watch.
television at
It's
that point.
the best feeling there is. Yeah, it's the best feeling there is.
I think last session I had a moment where like they're going, on a whole thing. And then I'm sitting there for like probably a good 30 to 40 minutes. And then as they're talking about what they're doing, I was like, wait, hold on. Y'all need to like roll shit. Like I forgot I have to DM. Like
Just put me dice
Yeah, all
roll
of a
again.
sudden I was just like, wait, I forgot I'm DMing. Because yeah, like we were all bickering and like you were playing Narian at that point, so you were chiming in here and there, but it was mostly like the 3 party members, like us just going back and forth and like
yeah, and you're being like, we gotta sneak back to the hedge maze, we gotta make sure there's no evidence and da-da-da, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, cool, bet, we're gonna go. And I was like, I was about to just let y'all do it. And I'll be like, no,
Yeah.
wait, y'all have to roll stealth checks. Like y'all can't just be
Yeah, like, I'm
Oh yeah,
people
we're
in
playing a game. I
guard,
forgot.
like
yeah, I forgot. My bad, my
Narian's a
bad, my
druid.
bad.
I'm like turn into a mouse, get in somebody's pocket. Like we need to get out of here.
Yeah. But it's good shit. And like on top of that, like I think the moments of I'm so happy that we've cultivated that within our own specific group, but I also love the moments where like I introduce somebody new to the hobby who like has never played, doesn't get it and all that. And like the moment that it clicks for them, that is like crack to me. Yeah, I was like,
it's good.
I got you now. Like you're now in this forever.
Now you can't escape. No, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, a lot of people have said to me like, "Oh my, you're watching the Strongcast is what got me into playing," and I'm just always so grateful for that. One, because it's my favorite hobby. I love bringing people into it, but also it just means there's more people out there doing it. So there's more tables, more opportunities to form friends and groups, and yeah, I don't know. I think it's a powerful thing, D&D. I really do. It's an art form that I really believe in, and I have seen it affect such positive a change in people. It's so great to help build confidence and think on your feet and form friendships, and I just think it stretches a lot of really helpful muscles for people.
I should be able to put it on my resume.
Yeah.
Like that's my only quip is that like I can't professionally yet and be like, well, you see, I have all these skills. I have a very particular set of skills, and how do I phrase this professionally?
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I'm currently working on getting my boss to agree to the fact to let me DM for a bunch of our coworkers because a lot of them they either play D&D or they have loved to learn about D&D and want to play it very desperately. And I'm like, think of it as like team building exercises.
Yeah. Office bonding.
Exactly. Office bonding. We've got so much space. Look at this giant table that you just have in here.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
It'd be a waste not to use it. Come on.
Yeah, I already have the key. You don't even got to be there. Actually, I'd prefer you not.
It'd be better if you weren't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to DM for you. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
we don't have that relationship.
Maybe next time.
No.
I have also like with the Magnus archives, like roleplay, like I am absolutely feral waiting for that to reach my grubby little paws. And I have like talked about running that for some of my coworkers, like, which I'm realizing now I just said I don't think I could run anything online, and that would be online. So I would have to get over that very quickly if I actually get held to that standard. But I've converted quite a few people into I'm dragging people into that fandom left and right because I need people to yell about it too. And so it might happen.
It's the good food.
Hazoo.
Have you only ever played D&D? I mean, I know you mentioned y'all tried Overgrown, but like, have you ever ran another system as like a long-term thing?
I've never ran anything else. I've played a bunch of other systems. Just in terms of Goon stuff, we have done Call of Cthulhu on Twitch. And we have also done Delta Green. We're about to start season 2 of our Delta Green campaign on Twitch. Starting February 19th on Mondays at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So come check that out if you want.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the great thing about, it's a great time to get into tabletop role playing because there's just so much great stuff out there. If D&D doesn't if D&D is too much of something or not enough of another thing, I mean, there's a system out there that'll pretty much hit your Goldilocks zone, There's just so much great stuff out there.
That's awesome. Yeah, it looks like we are coming up on time here, but this was so lovely and such a wonderful conversation to have, and I'm so grateful that you agreed to come on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It was so great. I was so excited that we got to meet at PAX, and that we finally were able to get here.
We were,
Oh
like,
yeah, no, the
scoping
speed at which I was like, I saw your Instagram story and you had a booth. I was like, I don't
Like,
care what
they're
we're doing, we're
somewhere.
going. There's somewhere.
Yeah.
Me creeping on your Instagram, being like,
Yeah.
okay, the booth is here. What's around the booth? Where
Yeah.
can we find the booth?
Like zooming in, be like, here's the symbol behind, like, we will find you.
Well, thanks for coming to
Sending
find
a
us. We
drone over.
appreciate it. Yeah. Huzzah.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
thanks so much. This was a delight.
Yeah,
Thank you so much
absolutely.
for coming. This
And
was wild.
yeah, just give a quick little outro again and remind our viewers who you are and where they can find you, and plug away any exciting projects you got coming up.
So yeah, again, we are Critical Fail DM. That's Fayle DM. We do all sorts of stuff. Our Strodcast is what we're most famous for. You can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you can find podcasts, really. You can look us up on Twitch at Critical Fail DM and on YouTube. We have a lot of full-length videos of some of our sessions on YouTube. And we will be starting, like I said, our Season 2 of Goon Files, which is our Delta Green campaign starting February 19th. So we would love to have you come check us out for that. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. And thank you guys again so much for listening, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Take care.
Table Talk is a podcast brought to you by Mythos Media Productions, bringing you a new episode every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcast. Find us on Instagram and TikTok at Table Talk RPG, or check us out at our website, mythosmediaproductions.godaddyscites.com. All business inquiries can reach out to us via email at info@mythosmediaproductions.com.